One line. That's all it took.
And then you went and ruined it. 7
words. And this fandom lost its entire mind. And so did I. Yeah, today we're not doing a reaction. Today we're doing an autopsy. Well, I mean, I'm doing a reaction. I'm doing episode 5 after this. But this I can get out without like a copyright fist fight bar brawl in the car park. So we'll do this. We'll go full detective mode. We are gonna go frame by frame through the bar scene. We're gonna do body language and framing and just everything. We're gonna do everything. We're gonna figure it out because I don't think Alastor is as unreadable as he wants us to think he is. But let's start with the too long didn't read version for the filthy casuals. I'm kidding. And all of these currently very tenuous claims I will prove later on. But I do think from Alastor's point of view, Vox takes the relationship Al certainly seems to view as private, not unpleasant, and actually unusually safe, and then tries to define it out loud as a strategic partnership. And Alastor reacts like Vox has contaminated something that he could only tolerate while it was unnamed. And I think that's important, and we'll get to it. But what that doesn't do is make Alastor's response fair. Not by any means. He deliberately finds the softest part of Vox, puts a heel through it, and subsequently gives evil Samsung a complex that he still carries around to this very day. He wears it like a badge of pride. Happy Pride, by the way, even though it's late and over. But I mean, hey, every day can be Pride if you're fabulous enough, right? I've just hit that. See, that's my divine punishment, just hitting things accidentally. I have the Hazbin Hotel 2026 Pride Award video coming out too. I've done that, it just needs editing. Anyway, what the hell was I talking about? Oh right, Alastor's reaction and the reason for it. In my opinion, Alastor thinks that Vox is trying to syndicate something Alastor thinks is personal. Now this is all just speculation, this is all just me yapping as usual, but it does give the brutality of Alastor's response, his rejection, a sort of psychological shape beyond Alastor is an arsehole and that's it. And just as some quick context for anyone just joining us, Vox currently has Alastor tied up, and then Al throws out that word inspiring like a goddamn challenge, and it cuts us straight to the past, kicks us straight in the flashback. Alastor's in his pilot outfit, which is a super cute little detail, also reminds us we're in the past. But one of the things I think is important to remember about this scene, from what I read from it anyway, is that we're not just seeing the falling out here. We're seeing the friendship. This is the only time we get to see them like this. Not the rivalry, not the beef, the friendship before it broke. And honestly, this scene opens on something pretty exceptionally rare. A relaxed Alastor. Hi, have you met Al? This man is lounging right now. Lounging. I mean, look at his body language here. His weight is resting into the bar. He's not holding himself rigid. His head is lying on his hand. His shoulders are low and relaxed. He's not performing or presenting himself right now. And Vox is allowed right next to him. That feels super significant because from all I've seen of Alastor, and I mean, I said it last episode, last reaction, Alastor's main job at the hotel is to stand in corners and mess with the vibe. That's how he puts himself out there. He puts himself as apart from people. Not here though, huh? Here he is very much part of the conversation. He is in the interaction and he's drinking next to another overlord. This uptight radio man who has made control and power and performance, the fact that he's voluntarily having a little Dwinkies, something that lowers inhibition and control, in the presence of another powerful sinner does suggest an unusual level of comfort to me. And then Vox imitates him.
Well, you're pretty new yourself.
And what's wild to me is that Alastor doesn't take the imitation as mockery at all. The impression itself feels intimate. Vox clearly knows Alastor's expressions well enough to copy them, and he clearly expects Alastor to enjoy hearing that reflected back to him. And Alastor does! That's wild! Look at him, look at this! This expression here, this is not the usual giant teeth-bared grin we normally see. This is much smaller, it's much looser, and I mean, call me crazy, but I think it's more important for being smaller and looser and quieter. He lowers his face, his grin goes all soft. His body language is looking really genuine here, like it's a posture shift rather than any kind of performance, which is far more natural and far more like actual amusement escaping him. I feel like this is the closest we have ever seen and may ever see to Alastor giggling. And listen, I know you're all going, oh, Jen's gone full radio silence, radio static, and no, or maybe, no. The key point isn't that it's proving romance or anything, because it's not, but it does kind of prove that Vox knew how to amuse Alastor, doesn't it? And not only that, he knows how to amuse Alastor, and Alastor lets himself be amused. Like this alone makes the "they were never really friends" pretty difficult to sustain. Like, Al can reject the word as much as he wants, like he can reject Mimsy using it too, but his refusal to use the word does not change reality, and I don't think it's an accurate representation of his attachments either. Friend is a dirty word to Alastor because he has to admit he has one if he uses it. That's it. What the pooper was I actually getting at here? Oh, right, the giggle. It's a giggle, it's a wheeze, it's a real laugh. Alastor was comfortable around Vox. Bang! That's my gavel. I don't have one. I'll use my pride stick. You haven't seen it yet because you haven't seen the pride video, but this is my pointer stick for my homemade green screen. I did that for you. It was a real laugh. And then Vox pivots, stops the compliments, gets to the actual point, which is a partnership.
So, I've been thinking, Alastor, with your incredible power and my massive influence, we would be unstoppable. Radio and video. Me and you, we could rule hell together as partners.
Power, fame, the two of them running things together. And this is where it turns. This is where Alastor turns. But the way we get there is so interesting because Vox approaches it from a we standpoint, not a me standpoint, which is so different to who he is now. I think I said last episode about him continuously forgetting to include Vox and Velvet in things. He keeps forgetting they're there. He always says me. He never says we. They have to remind him. And that does make me wonder if this had something to do with that switch. Like, did he start building relationships defensively because he's refusing to give anybody else this same amount of power to reject him like this again? I mean, it's possible. The last person he offered an us to laughed in his face. Oh, goddamn, that's a tangent. Help, my brain's gone rogue. Where were we? Okay. In this flashback, in this moment, Vox comes from a place of us, a place of we. He doesn't say it like, oh, you could make me powerful. Instead, he goes on about what they could become. The us is painfully sincere as well. He's imagining a joint identity. Vox. He's not saying, come work for me. He's saying, let's rule hell together. But unlike when he says that about Valentino and Velvet, I think he actually means it here. The sincerity is what gets me. Like, I think it's got a lot to do with how he looks here. Like, Vox is still a relatively awkward version of himself here. He's got his CRT head on, which is obviously less elegant than his flat screen face he has now. And his body language is so eager. It's almost overextended, and it almost feels rehearsed to me. Like, does anyone else get that? I feel like he's practiced this speech in the mirror a lot. This isn't present day Vox, like hypnotizing an entire room or anything like that. He's just trying to convince one guy, one person, and that person's answer matters horribly to him. You can tell. I mean, look. He's clearly excited about this. He gestures widely. He's excited about their potential, like he's trying to mime out the glorious future that he's clearly got envisioned for both of them. He keeps glancing at Alastor, these little approval-seeking glances. There's fizzy electricity going through his antennas at the start there. He's also very clearly nervous about this. He's trying to sell the idea to Alastor, but underneath it feels like a question, and the question is literally just, do you see me the same way that I see you? And even if that just means as a business partner, as the future, all these things we know Vox wants, it must have so much hope hinged to it. And Alastor must pick up on that, because he wouldn't turn so viciously and so overwhelmingly in the direction of Vox's sore points if he didn't know him that well too. He knows where to hit, where it'll leave the most damage. He didn't just guess that, which we can dig into more now, because this is where everything turns properly. Because there is a detail here I would have missed, if not for a commenter pointing it out to me, so thank you, flowers, love, I appreciate you. I wouldn't have caught it. It's the noise, the deer noise, the bleat, whatever it is. So Vox touches him a lot in this scene. A lot. Casual hand stuff, arm stuff, and for the most part, nothing. Nada. Zip. No reaction. Alastor's fine with it, or at least he's not showing anything to suggest he isn't fine with it. One each side, and that's the only time you get that noise out of Alastor. I checked, and it is quiet. I had to put headphones on to catch it. It's that same deerish distress noise he's made before, just really restrained here. But it's not just the sound. Alastor's eyes flick down to look at the hand too. That's not something he did before, not for any of the earlier touches. Something changed there. Something registered different in that moment, and I'm not totally sure what changed. Okay, so one hand reads as casual, right? The kind of close space two friends generally occupy. That's fine, that's normal. I guess two hands, one on each shoulder, does read like a different beast. It's closer to being held in place than being touched. Almost adjacent to the idea of being restrained. And that shift from touching him to almost holding him in place, I think, is at least part of the reason why Alastor's switch flips here, especially since it happens at the exact same moment Vox's pitch starts dialing up. And now listen, another layer that we can't ignore and shouldn't is that Alastor is a mixed race Creole man from early 1900s Louisiana. And a black man from that era would have had a very real, very specific relationship to being physically restrained or handled by other people. And that historical context isn't something that we should erase from the character. Even though, I can't tell you the show consciously intends it in this exact moment. But I do feel like it's a reasonable thing that being held like that, even by a friend, even affectionately, might land somewhere deeper for him than it would for someone without that history, like Vox, who never had to deal with the kind of prejudice that Alastor did. I don't think that touches the whole story, though. More like it's the end part of the story that Alastor has already started misliking at this moment, shall we say. Just listen to what Vox is saying. He's talking about power, about how strong they could be together. He's on about attention and influence and how people already know and love them. And Vox probably thinks this is all praise, and it is. From Alastor's perspective, Vox saying all these things could super easily start to sound like, this is what I want from you. This is why I've been spending time with you. This is all I see when I look at you. And that is where the comfort starts draining out of Alastor's face. Look at him before Vox puts the emphasis on power, and then look at him after. His smile is still there, because of course it is. That smile is bolted to the man's skull at this point, but it's smaller. That is a closed-lipped smile, and he has worn it before this scene, but look at the difference between here and here, because here is before power entered the conversation. He's still relaxed, he's still amused, and here, where he has stopped moving entirely, he's gone stock still. The amused, almost affectionate little eye crinkles have left the building. And this is where I think a couple of different interpretations can completely exist at the same time. And the first one is that Alastor presumes Vox has been using him. Maybe before this, he presumed they were simply spending time together because they enjoyed each other's company. They drank together. They laughed. Vox understood his humour. Vox knew his mannerisms. I've just realised that fan was on the whole time! I'm furious. Are you furious? I'm furious. Oh my god. Well, I hope I can salvage the audio to this. Where was I? What the hell was I talking about? Vox and Alastor... Yeah, Vox knew how to make him laugh. And the point is, Alastor has at least a little, and maybe without even knowing it or admitting it to himself, let Vox in a little bit. And then Vox says, power. And maybe Alastor hears that and thinks,
oh, so that's what this was.
Just recruitment. Not I enjoy you, but more like,
I have identified your value.
I think that would be genuinely humiliating for someone like Alastor. Not because he doesn't understand transactional relationships, because oh my god, the man lives and breathes in transactions, but because this might have been one of the very rare times he didn't think he was in one. And just to be very, very clear, I don't think this means Vox was lying about the friendship. I don't think the scene presents him as some cold manipulator who spent years pretending to like Alastor because he wanted the Radio Demon starter pack. He's way too emotionally invested for that. Vox could mean, you mean something to me, and therefore I want to build something with you. And despite that, all Alastor could have heard is, you are useful to me, so I kept you in my pocket for later. Same conversation. Two completely different emotional languages, and neither of them bothers to translate. 70 years of carnage follow. Good work, boys. Good work. Communication kings. But there is another possibility, and I think this one might be even more important. Like, Vox did the thing, the unforgivable thing. He only went and bloody named it. He turns whatever they have into an us. I don't think Alastor likes that, because while the relationship is undefined, Alastor can tolerate it. He can drink with Vox, laugh with Vox, seek him out, spend time with him, enjoy him. He can do all of that while telling himself it doesn't mean anything. It is simply two powerful gentlemen enjoying a pleasant evening. Nothing to see here. Nobody has feelings. Everybody go home. But no, Vox takes this private, unspoken thing and slams it on the bar right in front of them, right between them. And now Alastor has to look at it. So what are his choices here? Well, I mean, he either has to admit and acknowledge that there is in fact an us, or he has to destroy the concept before it can demand anything from him. So he declines it. No, sorry, he doesn't just decline it. He detonates it. The second you call someone a friend, you admit they matter. The second you call something a partnership, you admit somebody else has a claim on your future. Alastor needs to see himself as self-contained. That's his whole mythos. The myth of the radio demon, right? Strolled into hell, powerful, alone. He can be wanted. He can be needed by others, but needing somebody back? No, 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 no. No, 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 no.
Absolutely disgusting. Take it away.
And this is where those radio dials appear in his eyes. Now, in my opinion, and I don't want to make like a single pupil animation carry the entire prosecution or anything, but those dials tend to show up when he's highly activated, shall we say. Angry or losing control or trying very hard not to, or he's being threatened. Something like that. But here, they appear when he's laughing. His mouth is saying one thing, and the rest of him is saying something completely different. One part of him is saying,
"This is hilarious,"
and the other part of him is saying, "Abort, abort, something has gone very wrong." Could be anger. Could be disgust. Could be that horrible moment of realization where he thinks he's misjudged their entire relationship. And it could be that Vox has backed him into an emotional corner where suddenly he feels like he has to define something that he needed to keep undefined. Or it could be all of those things. Having a knife fight at once behind his forehead. That is very Alastor. But whatever the exact emotion is, it sure as anything ain't relaxed amusement anymore. It looks like a stress response. And then his hands go up into his hair, which is another thing we've seen him do when he's agitated. It is not his usual little composed microphone holding, coat straightening.
Aren't I marvellous?
It is a much less controlled gesture, and yet he is laughing. That contradiction is the scene. The laugh gets bigger as the genuine reaction gets harder to see. And then, crucially, the framing hides his eyes. The mouth is the part Alastor controls. The smile is his logo, his brand. The eyes are usually where things start leaking. So it's incredibly inconvenient for me, emotionally and logistically, that the smile is dominating the scene but hiding the eyes, which, you know, is our easiest way to try and figure out what's actually going on in there. None of this, by the way, turns Alastor into like a secretly little sad boy who had no choice but to emotionally disembowel Vox. He absolutely had a choice. He could have said no. He could have said, "I prefer to work alone." He could have left. He could have laughed it off or changed the subject. He does none of these things. Instead, he identifies immediately that Vox is vulnerable, that Vox desperately wants his approval, and he uses that knowledge to make the rejection hurt as much as possible. Like I said before, he needed to know where to aim to really hurt Vox, and he clearly does. Vox places his hopes on the table. Alastor picks up the biggest goddamn hammer he can find. And that is where we have to separate explanation from absolution. Because even if Alastor does feel used or cornered or manipulated or exposed or restrained or any combination of those things, any of those things going on in his head, Vox has not attacked him here. Vox has made himself vulnerable, and Alastor punishes him for it. That is vicious. That is personal. And I think it's only this vicious because this moment is personal to Alastor too. Because indifference does not usually require this much dramatics. If Vox meant nothing to him, why go this hard? Why not dismiss him and move on? Why make sure the rejection is carved deeply enough that Vox is still screaming about it 70 years later? And then we cut back to the present, and Alastor says,
And then you went and ruined it.
You ruined it. It. That one word is doing bonkers amounts of labour here. Because as we were talking about in the comments, you cannot ruin nothing. You can't ruin a relationship that never existed. You can't spoil a friendship that was imaginary either. It is impossible to contaminate something that meant nothing to you in the first place. There was an it. Alastor admits it without meaning to. Or maybe he does mean to. Maybe he does mean to admit it, but only because he can frame himself as the wronged party while doing so. Vox ruined it. Vox. Not Alastor, apparently. Not the man who laughed in his face and vivisected him for good measure. No. Vox ruined it. Vox ruined it. Vox ruined it by saying the quiet part out loud, by asking for more, by wanting the relationship to become something Alastor would have to acknowledge. And the bitterness in that line is wild. He does not sound very neutral about it when he says, you ruined it. Does he? It sounds very much to me like Alastor has preserved his own version of this grievance for decades. That's what I mean when I said they both had different conversations. Vox thinks, I offered you everything and you humiliated me. Alastor thinks, I let you close and you revealed who you really were and what you wanted from me, what you really wanted from me this whole time. Both of them have been dragging those interpretations behind them ever since, clattering like tin cans attached to the world's worst wedding car. And this is why I don't think Vox is the only one who hasn't moved on. Obviously Vox hasn't. Vox has built half his personality around having not moved on. But Alastor? Alastor consistently engages with Vox's attention. He knows exactly how badly Vox still wants his approval, and he feeds that dynamic whenever it pleases him. And despite Alastor's reputation for destroying overlords who displease him, Vox is still here. Now that does not prove anything. I'm not saying that Alastor spared Vox because love conquers all. Maybe Alastor didn't think he was worth killing. Maybe humiliating him was more entertaining. But it is interesting to note that Alastor repeatedly declines add Vox's screams to the broadcast as an option. And I feel like maybe that's because Vox's attention gives Alastor something too. Vox's proof Alastor still mattered while he was gone. Vox noticed his absence. Vox obsessed over his return. We saw in the Overlord meeting, Alastor said something like, you've wondered where I was to Camilla, and she said, not really. Vox wondered. Vox obsessed over it. Vox still reacts to Alastor every time like a live wire has been shoved directly into his brain. And for somebody who pretends he needs nothing from anybody, being needed that much? Since it was mentioned in the comments, I do want to talk about the balcony scene with Nifty. Everyone else is drinking, they're together, they're preparing for battle, having this weird little found family moment. And Alastor is standing above them, apart, watching. And he says, it almost makes one sentimental. Almost. He can recognize connection, he can enjoy it, he can even feel something because of it. But he positions himself outside it. The flashback The bar scene makes that feel different to me now. I mean, not necessarily because he's secretly standing there thinking about Vox. We can't say that. There's no little Vox-shaped thought bubble floating above his head. But it shows us the pattern, doesn't it? He's not incapable of connection, but the kind of connection he's comfortable with is the one where he can pretend it's not happening. And the second somebody says, "This is important, you're important, you matter to me, let's call this something," he panics, he recoils, or he attacks. Frankly, my dear, the bar scene does not show us that Alastor never cared about Vox, but it does show that when Vox tried to make whatever it was between them explicit, when he tried to turn you and me into us, Alastor reacted as though the word itself was a threat to him, specifically, personally, and he detonated it immediately. And 70 years later, Vox is still trying to prove to Alastor that he made the wrong choice in that bar. And Alastor is still trying to insist there was never a choice to make, which would have been slightly more convincing if he hadn't looked Vox straight in the eyes and said, "You ruined it." Because Vox is not the only person still carrying that bar around with him. He's just the only person honest enough to admit it broke him. And that, ladies and gentlemen, and creatures of the night, is my current autopsy report. Cause of death: 2 emotionally constipated overlords, 1 catastrophically miscommunicated proposal, and approximately 70 years of refusing to talk about it like adults. Absolutely tragic. 10 out of 10. I need 12 more scenes immediately. Guys, if you agree with me, if you don't, if you want to yap about it more, drop it in the comments. I read every single one of them. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye, friends. What was that? I've never done that before.